Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and today we have special guest, Greg KIHISTROM. Greg is a best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur. He has worked with some of the world's leading organizations on customer experience, employee experience, and digital transformation initiatives before, during, and after selling his award-winning digital experience agency, Carousel 30. So, welcome to the show, Greg.
Oh, thanks so much. Looking forward to talking with you.
All right. And the first thing I like to share about is this show actually came about based on my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And I'd love for you to share maybe a time in your personal or business life where you experienced a difficult situation and how you got back on track.
Yeah, sure. So, in my with my marketing agency, Carousel 30 that you mentioned, that went through several iterations. And so I started it with, so it went sort of through 3 iterations throughout a 14-year period. And I ended up selling it and, all's well that ends well. But the first iteration, I started it with a couple of college friends and my now ex-wife. Mm-hmm. To be honest, we all are on speaking terms with each other, so it could have been a lot worse. But, I was kind of young, started a company, the classic entrepreneur thing, like I thought I was going to spend all day doing all the things I love, and instead had to learn about finance and operations and all those kinds of things. And, early on, it just became clear that even though, everybody liked each other from a friend perspective, like, it just wasn't going to work out. And so, I had within 2 years of starting the company, had everybody, we all kind of went our separate ways. And I was able to buy everybody out and kind of take ownership of the company. But, it was kind of tough in some ways. I mean, I kind of had to start from scratch and rebuild and everything. And again, was able to do that and grow it and sell it and stuff like that. But it's kind of it was a tough thing to be kind of responsible for everything. It was by my own choice, so it wasn't, I'm not a victim here, but still, to kind of take all that on and a lot of things that I didn't really know how to do. So yeah, it was interesting.
It's like a PhD in business when you actually do trial and error and learning. That's the best way. You can't get it in the book. So.
Completely agree. Yeah, I'm sure there's a mistake I haven't made yet, but I've sure made a lot.
Yep.
And yeah, it's how you learn. And I've and thankfully, I've been really fortunate to have partners and people surrounding me that are very forgiving and understanding and can give advice. But yeah, sometimes I can't believe how many mistakes were made along the way. But my goal is to try not to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah. So now what are you in business doing now exactly? Could you explain a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah. So I'm a consultant. So I advise companies on various types of initiatives. So I like solving big problems. So I work as an advisor to most often organizations that they may hire an agency like a marketing agency or a technology agency or a big consulting firm to help them. But I work to help extract as much value as I can out of that relationship, because I've been on both sides. I've owned an agency. I understand the mechanics and the cost mechanisms of an agency. And, sometimes there's great intentions, but consulting firms just have to do business a certain way. And people that have been in-house and working for a company their entire career don't always understand that. And so I'm able to kind of play translator sometimes. I'm able to just kind of make sure that everybody's seeing on the same page, and as well as just, helping the end customers, the clients, really try to determine what they actually need. Because, everybody's selling something. So, it's sort of, I don't work for a product company, or, I don't have 100 people to pay salaries to. So I can be a little more objective about trying to solve problems and what solutions are actually the right ones.
Yes. Oh, okay. I see. So that's something that's so important right now. What advice do you have for maybe a smaller business who's working during this interesting time, trying to scale and looking at who do I hire to help me, what to make a good choice, and what steps to take first, second, third, and where to spend that money strategically so that they can actually grow and not just spend money?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's a lot in there. So I think I'm working with a small business right now, actually, that is, they're just getting off the ground. They're starting it's a marketing agency that's just getting off the ground. And obviously I have some very specific industry knowledge there, but there's also just things like the temptation to hire a lot of full-time people, because it's nice to have people on staff and they're there and they're working 40 hours a week and so on and so forth. But at the same time, there's a lot of wisdom in being able to be nimble and having contractors and specialists that are able to help you when you need that kind of help, as opposed to expecting someone who, they may be very smart and very dedicated, but they just don't know everything about everything. Nobody knows everything about everything. So, just kind of keeping things a bit more nimble until you really know and understand your business and what you need. I know not every kind of company, can do that, really. Sometimes people just need full-time employees, but just trying to stay nimble and agile as much as you can. I mean, I'm a big proponent of just agile in general. Right. My company is called the Agile World, but it's, there may be things where a retailer, is going to be very different than, a consulting firm or professional services or something like that. But in all things, just keep in mind, I mean, we've all in our own ways gone through a lot of change over the last, 18 months. So change is not going to stop happening. So, how do we try to brace ourselves for whatever's coming next and be nimble enough that we can adapt to it?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. There's something to hiring help when you need it. When I opened my gift stores, I literally it was 6 months in, and I finally had to pay rent because I had this agreement where I got free rent for so many months. And I was like, okay, it's not going so well. It's not going terrible, but it's not going so well. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, obviously. And I hired a marketing company. And what I loved about this company is they were like a consultant is versus, okay, if you get a coach versus a therapist, the difference was that they were like a coach. So they taught me why they were doing what they were doing, how everything came together, how to do the branding and the marketing, and how to do outreach and work with other companies to share the costs and advertising, all this. So I was paying for an education with them. It wasn't something where I was dependent on them. Like you talk to somebody, I've been going to therapy for 50 years and still they have the same problem. And it was an issue when they were 2. And
right.
So it's like, no, it was really short. So we agreed, and it was a contract. And I think it was a 3-month contract. And I went to $50,000 a month. Yeah. From like barely making rent. Yeah. And it was like, boom. Okay. And so investing in the right company, the right consultant for your business, the right marketing consultant is going to make all the difference, and one that can help you to create things. And, now and then I would hire them back for, a big ad or something special, or, to do a whole rebranding maybe on certain aspects, because it was a huge store. And then I opened 4 others. So I had 5. And so they kept coming back. So I did keep a relationship with them, but it was fair. And I felt like I got way more than I paid for.
If you get warning signs that a company that you're working with, whether they're, whatever they do, but since we're talking about marketing, if it feels like it's going to be a hostage situation, if you feel like it's going to be a messy breakup, whatever it is, just get out of there, go somewhere else that, to your point earlier, that wants to teach you. And, that's risky. Having been on that side, it's risky, but I live by the value that I provide to customers. And I think any good company should. And if you stop providing value to them, you shouldn't keep taking their money. And if you can keep bringing them new value, then they're going to keep hiring. You kept hiring that firm, not every day, but you hired them when you needed them because they proved their value. So I think I think it's the right approach.
Yes. And I referred them to everybody. All the other store owners, everything in the shopping park that I started in, Montrose Shopping Park in Glendale, California, Montrose, California. It's like a little part of Glendale. When I started there, I was the youngest person on the shopping park. And the next thing you know, the older people that had been in business 20 years were asking me, what did you do?
Wow.
And I was like, okay, well, talk to this marketing company and do this and that and stay open later and all, and we just, there was no competition. It was almost like an agreed upon situation where nobody competed. So if there's a candle shop, there's no other candle shops. And it was kind of like that in that little area. So you didn't have to worry about that. Now there's so much competition online. What do you have to say about that? How do you compete? How can a company stand out in this really different, where competition is everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest differentiator, really, whether it's online or offline, is customer experience. And that's something that I spend a lot of time with companies on. And so, there's customer experience looks very different if you're Amazon versus if you're a retailer in a shopping center. But the principles are the same. As the customer comes first, and try to do something unique and play up your attributes. And that store in the shopping center is not going to be able to compete with Amazon on Amazon's terms, but that doesn't mean that they can't compete. They can provide much more personalized service and make that customer feel and feel like they're number one, as well as provide recommendations to them that some automated service will never be able to provide. And I think whatever customer service looks like, a lot of it also comes down to the employee, how the employees are treated, and how knowledgeable the employees are, how well they're trained, all of that kind of thing. And again, that's how you compete with the online retailers. If it's price, then it's just a race to the bottom, and you're never going to win. But if people really want to feel, that they're listened to and taken care of, they're still going to come back to someone that provides that to them.
Right. Yes. So I'm this young kid opening the store back then, and I literally, how did I compete? First, I hired talent. So I was a young mom already at this young age. And so I had 2 nannies, and it was over 5,000 square feet. So there was this whole back area that was like extra warehouse. We had nothing in warehouse. Everything was on the floor because it was so big. And that was like the baby's nursery area for my kids. And so I would go to all these top stores. This is kind of terrible, but I would make friends. I'd go shopping at Nordstrom's and make friends with the people that helped me there. And they were also women, mostly, that, they had young children, and it was stressful, and they got paid 10 times, maybe 100 times what I could pay. But I said, hey, you know what? Would you like flex time? Would you like to have 2 nannies full time with your baby, where you can go see on the break, you can go check on your babies? Would you like that? Because I can pay you this much an hour, no commission, flex time, and your babies are with you. Wow. And I would get top talent, because I honestly, I was like, I'm just going to hire people that know what they're doing, because I didn't know what I was doing. And they were incredible. And so that was one thing. And then I think the other thing, some of the things that worked for me, and this was back then, but it's creativity. So that was really creative because I had no budget for employees. Then the other thing I did was I came out of foster care. I had this interesting youth. And so I came out of this system and I wanted to give back. And I created a program and gave a proposal to the government. And there was this Job Training Partnership Act. And they would fund me to train at-risk youth that were emancipating from foster care. So I had this incredible team of top salespeople that had so much experience, 20 years experience in retail, that were training these kids that nobody wanted to hire. And then the agreement is I had to film, and this was back when it was a camcorder, it's this 20-pound camera and then these big old tapes. And that's how long ago it was. And we would record and write out all the training for the kids and have to turn that in. And they would get full pay above the salary for a new hire. And they would also get the workers' comp covered. And then I would give them a letter of recommendation, and they would get the top job at a big company that could really support them. Working with all the businesses that you do, what has been the difference over the last couple of years with the pandemic and all these things? What has been the switch, and how have you helped companies to survive this change?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, probably the biggest challenge has been with hiring and retention. And, I think on the customer side of things, I mean, it's been a little bit, it's definitely been different, but I think the biggest challenge really just has been, it's such a strange talent market right out there right now, simply because, you would think with what's going on, people would want to stay in their jobs, but, they're calling it the Great Resignation. 70% plus of people are at least considering leaving their jobs. And, I think the pandemic has given a lot of people just the opportunity to rethink what they actually want to do and how much they value their time and time spent commuting or just time spent doing a job that doesn't seem to value them. And, money is always important, but money is not always the only determining factor in some of these decisions. And so, working with companies to navigate, when are we bringing people back to the office? Do we even need to bring people back to the office? If we do, why would we do that? I've also worked with some hospitality, so restaurants that literally overnight had to switch to takeout, delivery. One of the restaurants I work with, very high end. They would never, 2 years ago, they would have laughed in your face if you said you're going to do delivery. And all of a sudden, in order to keep the lights on, they were having their wait staff driving trucks because they wanted to pay them. No one could come in the restaurant. So, they were finding work for these people. And, I just like you taking care of your people, I think that's amazing that they got so creative, and they were losing money on it. They were overpaying these people to do some of these jobs, but they were doing something to keep people employed during that time. And I think those are the kinds of companies that will survive, are the ones that are able to get creative, that care about people. And ultimately, when they care about their people are going to care about the customers, and that's going to be the long-term success of the company as well.
That's so true. And really important to know that you're cared about at work, that it's how you treat your clients and your employees. The clients will feel it. Yeah. And the way your employees show up, the energy of that is going to shift if you consider they're part. Like for me, it was an extended family. I closed the last store, I think, oh my gosh, 2002. Okay. That's how long ago. And I worked there for many years. And then I ended up just renting out the buildings and teaching with my kids. But I still am connected with most of those employees today. And when we were going to transition to that and actually close some of the stores down because online started happening and this and that, and I just wanted to be with my kids. I have 6 kids at this point, so it was a lot. And I helped every single one find another job, and it was an 8-month process because I wanted to honor that relationship. I felt very responsible for, I hired these people and they're paying their mortgage. They're eating, they're surviving on the income that I was providing. And for me to just, I had to try my best to help them as much as I could to get other jobs. And they all really did. Some of them have their own businesses and very successful now. So that's something that's really important. And it's just, people could feel that. It was a very wonderful transition and very peaceful that way. And with the pandemic, though, we didn't have time for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And some people literally lost their business overnight. So how do you reboot? What do you say? How do you reboot if you maybe were a business that failed during this time, or, just, it's not really a failure. It's not even, I don't even think it's a learning. It's a learning that, okay, there could be some crazy thing that you'd never even imagined in a million years that's going to show up. And it's not even a reflection of how they do business. Yeah. But what do you suggest for them to start over or get a side business, or what do you suggest to get back on track?
Yeah, definitely. And, I know some people going through that right now, and it's, I will say, back in the last financial crisis, so 2008, 2009, I was still at Carousel 30, my marketing agency. That was the first time I had to lay people off. And, to your point about, that's something that I never in a million years wanted to do. It's still like I've had to do that one other time in my life, but, that is tough. And I did everything that I could to avoid laying off as many people as I could. And, I know people that have gone through that over the last year, in just having to do that, thinking they were doing the right thing. Nothing, they were doing the right thing. To your point, it's not like they were being careless and reckless and just kind of drove the company into the ground. Something unprecedented happens, and they do the best they can. And at the end of the day, I think it goes back to just, I don't think we're going back to the way that things were. I think that the new way of being is for everyone to keep in mind that they do need to be more nimble, that they need to have a backup, or they need to have something that they can do on the side or in addition, or, just to kind of make ends meet while some other change is happening. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's good to have some diversity and all things, but I wish it weren't the case, but like the gig economy, like that's something I know pretty well as well. As it's not going away, and there's a reason why people drive for Uber and still have a day job and whatever. It's just kind of the new way to make ends meet sometimes. But it's also, you've diversified your income, right? It kind of lets you not be beholden to one single job.
That's so true. I remember, I think it was during one of the crises, and it was a situation where I had properties I had bought through my income from the store and all this passive income. And then all of a sudden I lost a whole bunch of, I think it was 2008. I lost a whole bunch of tenants all at the same time. And they let go of their lease. And I was like, what? Yeah. And I tried different side jobs and different things at the time. And I was like, okay. And I tried Uber. And I did Uber for like one night. And the people wanted to jump out, go to a liquor store and get back in the car. And somebody rear-ended me while I was parking. And I thought, okay, the universe, God, whatever. I think there's a message here. This is not my thing.
This does not bode well. Yeah.
What? Are you kidding me? I was parked and they did a hit and run, and people literally saw the situation. And so they reported to the police when they showed up what happened. And luckily the people were not in the car. So I didn't have no liability. It was just me. And I didn't, there was nothing. No, it wasn't enough to injure me, just my car, but it was a wake up. And so you have to find what you need to do. But I was like, okay, I have no problem rolling up my sleeves and doing what I need to do to make ends meet when I need to. And it's not a judgment. So right now, going through, and I ended up doing different tutoring and doing things that I was much better at that were better fit for me. And so it's like during this time, sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, I had to put this or that on hold. Or I had this 2020 plan. And you remember New Year's, before we knew all this that was going to happen, we had these goals and we were going to do everything. And yes. And then March showed up and it was like, oh, never mind. Right. So sometimes you have to change course or wait, but that doesn't mean you can't serve in whatever way or be involved with your passion or still show up and continue working toward that outcome or goal. Even if you're doing it in a different way, how could I serve almost 200 young adults through gift stores? Doesn't that's like gift stores? How can that be serving at-risk youth? It really did. How can that happen? So anything you do, you can still be doing your heart's work. My heart's work was those kids and coaching and consulting them and helping them get on track. That was like, I loved that, and helping my clients and everything else. And the people that walked into the store were friends after a while. And so it was, no matter where you're placed, I think it's who you're being in all you're doing. It's how you show up. And, right now, right before the pandemic hit for my family, I lost my youngest son. He had a heart condition, went to sleep at grandparents' home for the holiday and didn't wake up. And my book was going to come out then, and I put it on hold, and people were like, oh, it's terrible. It's a terrible thing. You're never going to, and it was. As a mom and as a family, we had our time, and there's still times, but all these other things that I'm doing, it still happened. So it's okay. Don't think that just because you have something happen that you need to give attention to your family, or you need to go do an extra job or do something different. It doesn't mean your goals aren't going to happen.
Yeah. And I think, so for me, I look at this, again, I'm a proponent of Agile. And so to me, what it means is, I have things that I want to accomplish in my life, and there are things that I want to do and do more of and everything. But to your point, there are lots of things, 2 years ago, I had to sell my parents' house and move them into assisted living. And it was just a mess, it's, but we all have things that just kind of upend our lives, but it didn't completely disrupt the trajectory of my life or my career or even my relationship with my parents. It's one of those things where, as long you can take sprints towards a goal and just say, you know what, we're going to sit the sprint out, and we're going to take care of family because that's what's needed right now. But that doesn't mean that the overarching goal, the overarching mission and all that needs to stop existing. It just means we're going to find a slightly different way to get there. And that, to me, that's how I apply Agile, is just, okay, I'm going to take it a sprint, whatever that means. If that's a month, if that's 2 weeks, if that's whatever, like, I'm going to take it one sprint at a time, and I will get there. And, and when I get there, it may look different than I thought it was going to look 10 years ago. But you know what? It's probably because I've changed along the way too. But, I believe that, if you keep that overall goal and mission in mind, that you will find ways to achieve it, just like you did with, being able to help people. Like, I agree. It's like, if you were to plan in a business plan, from the very start, what you were going to do, you wouldn't have been able to write that, and you probably wouldn't have put that in your plan. And yet that's something that you wanted to do, and you found a way to make it happen, as well as make money and all those other things. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's something. I loved what you said about taking that pause when you need to. And I literally, in my book, I go through different rock bottom and tough situations. And one of the chapters is devoted to, it's called Parenting Your Parents' Elder Care. And it's that whole switch in the relationship when we almost become our parents' parent, where the relationship changes, and it's really heartbreaking and difficult to have that transition, because you want to love and respect and honor your parents, but now you're responsible for their elder care, for their maybe medical care, housing, and it's a tough one. It really is. And especially if maybe you, like for me, my grandparents and my parents, and we're back.
Oh, sorry.
All
Yeah.
right, we're back. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, I don't know what happened. That's interesting. I think it was my internet thing. It's a direct connect line. But anyway, so there's something about just honoring that it's a sacred time with your parents. You can't get that time back. And you can go make more money later. Or, you could figure it out, but just honor that time, and that relationship shift it's a beautiful thing, and you learn so much. I had such close relationships with my family when I had to take care of them, and got, like some of them moved into my house, and we had the nursing people come to us until that couldn't happen anymore. And so it was a sacred time, and something that you can't get back. So
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah, I'm still kind of going through some of it right now as well, and it's yeah, my parents took great care of me when they when they were able to, and to your point, it's kind of the tables have kind of turned or so, but my sister is very helpful and supportive as well, so we're both able to kind of work together on it. But yeah, it's just it's the time in my life that I need to do that, and I'm going to cherish every moment that I can, and there's going to be trying moments, and there's going to be other things, and I do have to work and make money so I can support them as well. But yeah, it's also just to keep in mind it's not always going to be like this, and so enjoy the times that you can, and know that the challenging things are not, they won't always be that way either. So
Yes, yes. So now I'd love for you to walk through with me, if I was a new client, or some business is a new client, how do you start working with them? What does this look like for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, what often happens is, I usually start when there's a big problem that is sometimes difficult to name. So
Okay.
that's that's kind of so that's kind of the starting point is, if you have a marketing problem and that's exactly what it is, you're going to hire a marketing agency. If you have, there's certain things where if it's kind of easy to understand what the challenge is, it's easy to hire the right person or company or whatever. I often come in and, I spend a lot of time networking. I spend a lot of time just meeting people. And that's kind of because it's really, I've had a difficult time selling and explaining what I do until I can talk with someone and say, okay, well, yeah, it sounds like this, and this are all problems, and no one in your organization is tying them together. I can help you. I can't do it all, but I can help you do it and find the right people to do it, or hire the right people and stuff. And so that's a very common way that I work. And again, the marketing challenge for me is often difficult because I don't know, like, come to me with a really complicated problem with your business, and sure enough, I can probably help you. I can probably help you with it. I mean, another case would just be where someone is having a need in an area like marketing or customer experience or something, where I can help in some capacity, where either they have a pretty large internal team that just needs a little augmentation, or they're thinking about hiring an outside firm and just kind of need a second opinion. I'm a great outside objective opinion to kind of help guide someone through the process. And sometimes, like in one of the things I'm working on with a big healthcare company, I've been involved from the, writing a request for proposal all the way through launching the, the end product. Other times I'm just involved at certain places, and maybe they hire an agency, and then I'm kind of out of the picture because they're in good hands.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that can save you thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars by just getting a consultant to help you and guide you to get the right help that you need, so that you're not wasting money on things that they all sound fancy and pretty and exactly what you need, but it's not a good fit, or they don't represent what you really need. And so that's really smart and a wonderful investment to make. Now, Greg, I like to ask, when you were young, what did you think you were going to do versus what you're doing now?
Sure. Yeah. So I played piano as a kid. So I took like 11 years of classical piano. So I think at one point I thought I was going to be a musician of some kind. There's a keyboard sitting over there off screen, but that's I don't use it quite as often as I might. But yeah, I mean, I think either something like that, or something. That was probably the most likely thing, I guess, when I was a kid.
Oh, wow. And I love the fact that you still have your piano right there and you're still playing piano. One of the things when I consult with people, I'll talk with a lot of moms and working with women a lot, and I'll talk to them. And one of the things is they're depressed, it's sad, they're frustrated. And some dads too, where they grew up and they stopped doing their passion, whether it's horseback riding or playing a sport, playing a musician, a musical instrument, singing, whatever it is. And you don't have to do that. And when you give up those talents, especially if you're a parent, what are you teaching your children?
Yeah.
You have to grow up and be serious, and you don't get to share your talents. Just go to work. And if you can incorporate those talents into whatever you're doing, then in some way, like I love music too. So I would literally, this was California with my stores. I would go to 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, and I would find these like corner musicians. And if I liked their music, I would give them the opportunity to come to my different stores. So there was the one in Montrose. There was a store in Burbank right across from the studios. I later rented to the studios. So they would have opportunities. And some of them actually got signed and had deals because they performed at my store. It had nothing to do with selling gifts. It was gift stores, but it was my music and fun. And it brought tons of people. They would eat dinner. All the other stores would close. So all the people would eat dinner at the restaurants nearby until like 9, 10 at night. And then I would be opened and I'd give free tea or, some kind of dessert samples. And then we'd have this live music on the weekend. For me, it was like, well, I have a concert going on for me. I mean, this is wonderful. I'm enjoying the music. Yeah. And people would come in and they'd buy.
Yeah.
They would dance with each other. They would sing, the songs if they do them, and then they would buy. And it took a few years for the other stores to realize, oh, maybe we should stay open later. And I was like, okay, because it just brought even more people. And so that's it. So how can you, if you're listening in, how can you bring your passions to your work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also there's that, and there's also just the idea of like having a hobby that is, I mean, so I work a lot, but I take time. So like the painting sitting behind me, I painted that because I always drew a little bit. And that was the other thing I probably did as a kid was draw a lot. And I just do that. It's like therapy for me. Like I just do it. And sometimes I force myself to do it because I'm like, man, I've been working for like 16 hours straight and I have to take a break and then go to sleep. But before that, before going to sleep, I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to draw a little bit because I need that thing that isn't practical at all. I don't sell artwork. I don't, I guess I've sold 2 things in my life, but I don't try to do that. Like the purpose of it is to kind of not have a purpose.
Right.
So I think there's that. I mean, I think the other, to your other question, it can be tough depending on the kind of job that you have to bring that, to bring that other part of you in. But again, you've given like 3 or 4 examples of ways that you were able to do that. And I know you own the company, so maybe, there's
that was easier.
sometimes that's a little different. But, I've illustrated articles that I've written or books that I've done as well. And so, I found a way to I didn't bring music into it, but I brought drawing into it. And, I just, cause I wanted to, and I had this idea and nobody else was going to do it. So so there's always a way to do that in some capacity, or even just to share a little bit about yourself with your coworkers, or, just to make yourself a more well-rounded individual. And I think that makes it more real too, for someone that's struggling with finding time or kind of the motivation to do that.
Fun. I worked, I had fun, and my kids have fun, and we have family time and work time. And it just helped me to be more present. There's that thing that happens where sometimes as a parent, a mom or a dad, where when you're at home, you've got the list still running of what you need to do for work, especially if you run a business. And then when you go to work, you're like, oh, I need to do these things at home, and I need to do these, spend time with my husband or wife or partner. I need to spend time with my kids. And so it's this conflict because you're not fully present anywhere. So when you're able to give that presence, that's the gift, right? The present is the gift, that you're fully able to give the presence at work. Your clients, your employees, everybody feels that you have more success. And then you go home and you shut the work door. You say, that's done. Even if work is from home now, and you're present with your family. Yeah. And something about feeling safe. I talked about on an earlier show I did today, where if you think about an intimate relationship, a partner needs to make you feel safe. If you feel safe, you're good. Yeah. And that's the same in other relationships, friendships. Do I feel safe with this group of friends? If I don't, if there's gossip, if there's drama, if there's crazy, I don't feel safe. They're not going to be in my inner circle of friends. And that goes for employees and for workplaces. When you think about, we talked earlier about at the other show about millennials and work and how different that is. And the questions are, what does this company stand for? What are the morals? Because there's a safety there. Like, I want to be in a company that's aligned with my mission and values. And so that's really important now to keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where, companies that don't have clearly defined values they're losing employees for that very reason. And, companies that kind of put on false values, or, they write them on the wall, but they don't actually live them and believe them and enforce them. I mean, I think, the biggest, the initial thing here is really leaders need to not only say what the values are, but they need to live those values. I mean, it starts at the top. And, having made a million mistakes before, I failed to live up to the values that I set for my own company many, many times. I upheld them many other times, but, I'll be the first to say, like, I failed doing that. And sure enough, when I did, my employees, they didn't always call me out on it, but I know they felt it. And I know that they felt it as well. And, that's something where, there's great things about being the leader of an organization, but there's some responsibility that you just have to take. And when you do that, though, your employees are going to feel it, and they're going to stay longer. They're going to be happier, and they're, at least the ones that, ascribe to those values. But, I think it's so important, and it's becoming, I think millennials were kind of famous for that kind of mindset of they wanted to do that, but it's not just millennials that do that. It's all generations. Even Gen Xers like myself, like, have some kind of have some values. So, it's I think everybody wants to work for somewhere they believe. And I think the last 18 months have shown us that even more than the previous 18 months. Is, people are questioning a lot of things right now. They want there to be a reason why they're sacrificing the things that they're sacrificing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's so true. And it's really important to be in integrity and be honest. That's something to be really honest. Look at that. It's something that happens where things are not always perfect. And when we strive for perfection, sometimes we never get to leave the gate because we're so worried about everything being perfect. And life is not like that. It's not, you're not always going to be a perfect person, but you do your best. And when there's a mistake or a learning that's made, if you're honest about it and you discuss it, and how can we learn from this? How can we grow from this? So Greg, I'd love to hear, what would you recommend as far as books to read or things to do to prepare if you're getting ready to do a new business?
Yeah, so one book I often recommend, it's by Ben Horowitz. It's called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's a bit of an unconventional leadership book, but it just talks about those things where, there's lots of books that say, here are the 5 steps to XYZ or 10 ways to, so on and so forth. But there's a lot of things where there is no manual sometimes when you're a leader or when you're starting a company. And so, he's gone on to be a very successful venture capitalist and all that stuff. But, along the way had some really amazing, challenges as well as successes at startups. And I think it just, I think that startup environment is just, it's like this pressure cooker of a business. So, I think it can apply to anyone, whether, whatever kind of company that they're starting.
That sounds so good. And we are actually coming to the end of our talking time. So I'd love to hear how people can connect with you to get started and learn more about all that you're doing.
Yeah, of course. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you can search for Greg KIHISTROM on LinkedIn, as well as my website is theagile.world. So just if you go to www.theagile.world, you can access it there.
All right. Well, thank you again for being a guest on the show, Greg.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Okay. And for those tuning in, we'll be back after these messages. All right. Check out my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation.
Necessitated. You need a guide to show you how we get through a situation like this, to give you resources and to help you get out of the emotional pea soup fog of dealing with a crisis and the resulting fallout. I've been there, and I'm here to help you. Out of the fog. If you weren't emotionally bound up in your situation, you would have more clarity. You would be able to see your best options for dealing with whatever comes up. If the version of yourself who has already walked through this rock bottom and come out the other end could go back in time and give you, the you right now, some advice, what would she say? Would she tell you to slow down, to stop rushing, that you don't have to have all the answers today? Would the future you recommend not making any major decisions without reviewing them first, particularly while you're still in the fog? Would she tell you that normal is going to look different for a while, but that you will feel normal again? In case we haven't invented time travel by the time you read this book, I'm here to tell you all of the above. I developed the Boots formula to help you learn to make choices, have a life shift, and make great things happen based on your individual values and best life vision. A change is going to happen, and it's worth it. There's a stage where it feels like everyone in your life is picking at you. Life itself may seem like it's trying its best to stop you from doing whatever you want to do. All you hear is, "That's a stupid idea," and "That's never going to work," and "Who do you think you are?" One of the hardest things for people to do is to realign and possibly walk away from anything and anyone that conflicts with their value systems. But you are going to discover that power within yourself. Through the activities and examples in this book, you will discover your true north and will be able to easily do what is needed to move forward with your life. Anything that hurts you, that doesn't resonate for you, that fights against what you want and believe in, you are going to give it the boot. Once you have turned your rock bottom moment into a positive, beautiful life shift, you can live your life on your terms. Your life will probably look different, but you get to design it this time. You are taking your life back, and you are in charge, not anybody else. Sooner than you can imagine, you'll be in the career of your dreams or the relationship you always wanted. Because you are going to learn to develop healthy boundaries. Because you are going to do things differently along the way from here to there. You will begin to attract the people, the job, the place to live, all of the opportunities that align with who you are, your essence, your truth, not anybody else's or even society's expectations of the way you're supposed to be. Once you have accepted that you are in charge of living your life and you begin to embody living your truth, people are going to see you. They're going to be inspired by you. Then you're going to hear, "Hey, can you show me how you did that? I want to do it too." When you assess your peer group and up-level according to your life purpose and vision, and once you have created a life shift for yourself, whatever that looks like, your life is not just full, it's fulfilled. Not only do you get more and better sleep, you wake up feeling rested and happy. You know that you're doing what you need to do. Yes, sometimes your heart will call you to leave certain friends or family members in order to find a more aligned peer group. From what I've seen, however, the ones who leave always return to lead their family and friends to success. Because your friends are more in alignment with your beliefs and value system, they support you while also pushing you toward your personal best. Life still involves work, but as a whole, it feels far more effortless. But you don't have to wait for the right person, right job, or right investment opportunity to show up. You can start living now so that every moment as you go forward through the process of recovering from rock bottom and redesigning your life is one more step to being the best version of you, the one who came back.
And that is what my new book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, The Formula to Go from Rock Bottom Back into Action in Any Situation, is all about. It is now available on Audible and Amazon Books, as well as wherever fine books are sold. And there is a special if you go to my website, www.sheilamac.com, www.sheilamac.com. So grab a copy today, and in that book you will get 14 free gifts related to strategizing and redesigning life on your terms. I have a copy of my new best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, The Formula to Go from Rock Bottom Back into Action in Any Situation. It is now available on Audible at www.sheilamac.com.
Nashville, Tennessee area drivers. Commodore Express is actively hiring CDLA team truck drivers for our West Coast operations. This is an in and out and back type operation. 4,500 plus miles per week. We offer full benefits package and above average pay package and an achievable bonus for more than 4 turns per month. We're a family-oriented company that takes pride in our values, honesty, respect, and integrity. We can work with full-time, part-time, retired, or casual drivers. Visit our website at www.commodoreexpress.net to learn more about us and request an online application. Or call Robert in recruiting for more information at 615-287-5140 extension 1. That's 615-287-5140 extension 1. We look forward to seeing you in one of our seats.